This ghost town doesn't exist anymore. All that's left now is a church and a couple of signs and some houses that are nearby. It didn't even start out as Bibbville. It had a really weird name. Not only that, in 1913 there was a train robbery in this town of Bibbville. And there's even more stories to go, and I'm going to try to tell them all to you in less than 7 minutes. See how I do. The town of Bibbville is located just southwest of Woodstock, Alabama, and the only thing that remains, it looks like an old homestead that I'm zeroing in here, and this church, which looks like a really nice church, and there's still people living in the area, but they're not very close by, and there's not a whole lot of them. But if you're riding down this road, it's kind of hard to see. There's a couple of dirt roads with some houses on them, but you could tell this place has been here for a while. The most interesting thing about Bibbville is that was not its original name. Its original name was Bibb Court House, probably named because it was the county seat for about a decade. And this is the church coming up here. We'll do a tour of that here in a minute. But the first stop is at the bridge that goes over the railroad tracks, because I was looking for remnants of the town on the railroad track. It looked like it may be a railroad-based community, but I couldn't find any traces along the tracks other than just railroad activity. Lots of trains running down here, so I decided to go towards that old homestead to see if I could get back and see any foundations or anything like that. But unfortunately, everything's overgrown. I'm not sure how many people lived here, but I do know from what I've read that the courthouse, the Bibb County Courthouse, was located here for just over a decade, and it sounds like they ran the courthouse out of an old tavern that was located here. But you can see the fence here prevents me from going back to that house that I could see on the satellite image, which looked pretty cool. I would really like to go back there. It's probably just a hunting cabin now. Doesn't look like it's very heavily traveled. From just a quick tour of the graveyard, there's not a lot of graves out here, so I'm thinking this has always been a small community, but it looked like the people that lived here had some money. And I'm not sure what they did. I saw one of the graves noted the guy died in a coal mine. Another one was killed in Giles, Alabama. But these graves here, I'm thinking these were the community leaders. Seemed like one of them was a pastor. But you can see this big magnolia growing out of the side of one of these tombs. I'm not sure what you call those things. That's called a magnolia. Here's the other striking thing. There was a lot of these around. It's a little bit disturbing. And this family here lost 3 generations of girls to either stillborn or maybe premature birth. Who knows? But there seemed like there was an overwhelming amount of children out here under the age of 5. And now maybe the most interesting part was the holdup, the train robbery in 1913 that resulted in the death of a Jefferson County sheriff. It reads like a Wild West story. So a few guys robbed the passenger train in Bibbville and got away with apparently $50,000. And a posse was formed in Jefferson County, and several of the posse were on the train, and one of the deputies got up as they were departing the train, and apparently he squeezed a round off from his shotgun and killed a Deputy Sheriff Bonner, and that was a pretty big deal back then, apparently. I just get the impression that Bibbville was a rough place, and even looks like the markers, some of the markers were just really fancy and nice. I still get the impression that this was probably a rough place, and maybe a lot of towns in Alabama were rough back then. But they did catch the guys that they were looking for. Just can't find out any information if they were convicted, if they found the money, all that stuff. But it makes the old town of Bibbville, Bibb Court House, which is what it used to be named, even more interesting. So it's just little places like this that I think are pretty neat. And if you're around Woodstock area, drive down and take a look at some of the graves that I saw. I think you might be as impressed as I was, and maybe you can come up with some more information than I did. But anyway, interesting story, Bibbville, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, leave those below. If you dug it, give me a thumbs up, and check out some of my other ghost towns if you're interested, and I'll see you on the next one.